activists. You think Malcolm X and Martin Luther King agreed on everything? No. But when it came to the fight,
that's crazy to talk about Israel funding and being a for a foreign nation. Now, obviously, when it comes to Cory Booker, Israel is one of the problems. The other problem also is his pharmaceutical donors as well. He is like Johnson & Johnson's most loyal soldier, obviously, from his state.
Do you think he's a...
We have, I've had it, ladies, having a conversation with friends of the show. I've had it, ladies, having a conversation with Cory Booker.
Benjamin Netanyahu, do you think he's a...
Again, these are questions that a lot of people think are the important litmus tests that are loaded and hot. My urgency is to be an effective leader in bringing an end to this crisis. And I get these questions all the time that, to me, undermine my urgency. And
I think the thing that Democrats get so frustrated with, where we are right now, where you see like the Zoran Mamdanis and the Graham Plattners rise up, because they can go on podcasts and you can say, do you think Benjamin Netanyahu's, and they just say yes. And that's the end of it. It's not all of the rhetoric answering. It's like what happens to Democratic politicians, they go through this like prism, and then we can't ever get like the answer to yes or no conversations like you do with Bernie and others. And that's the frustration for the Democratic.
Do I think Netanyahu is worse than Trump? Yes.
Bro, it is not that hard to say that Benjamin, like, this is a exit ramp. Okay? This is a literal exit ramp for Cory. Like, this is the liberal Zionist exit ramp. Oh, yeah, Netanyahu is really bad. But he can't even say that. It's just like, it's so crazy how hard they have to dick ride Israel. I can't, like, this shit is so wild to me that it unironically feels like there's, like, do they have blackmail? Like, what the fuck is going on? It's over. You know what I mean? Like, what are you defending? It's over, man. It's over. It's like the established global position, right? And it blows my mind that these liberals won't say it out loud. I don't understand it. Like, what is the purpose? What could be the purpose of this? What do you mean they're still being paid by AIPAC? I know, but like, AIPAC payments are a vehicle to win re-elections. And the moment that AIPAC payments are seen as a negative thing, the moment that there's a negative association, because like AIPAC skirted by not being as well known as it is now. Obviously, in my circles, in the pro-Palestinian circles, everybody knew AIPAC. Everybody shit on AIPAC a lot. But for the rest of the country, most Americans didn't know what the AIPAC really was. If you're a political commentator, of course you know what it is. But if you're like an average person, you probably didn't really know what AIPAC was. You didn't have a negative association with Israel, and you didn't have a negative association with AIPAC. That has changed. Now, when there's any sort of when any sort of politicians ask about AIPAC or ask about Israel, if they don't take like a very negative approach, especially on the Democratic Party side, where there's only like 8% support for Israel's military incursion in Gaza, you're cooked. It's now a negative association. So now you actually have to work to rid yourself of that association with Israel if you want to continue winning elections. That's where we're at right now.
There's a handful of people that don't take corporate PAC money. I don't understand my Democratic
What
Party.
about AIPAC money? You take AIPAC money, don't you?
A minuscule percentage of my resources come from
I read it's like
871,000.
800,000.
Yeah, but that's a lifetime number of raising tens of millions of dollars. Let me give you the right stat. The majority of my money comes from small dollar contributions. By last report, I think 76% of it came from people that gave $25 or less. Again, we could pick at each other, or we could do what we need.
Yeah, we gotta unify. We gotta unify. It's like, yeah, we do, which means you have to unify with us on this issue, because the overwhelming majority is no longer believing this shit. Now it actually hurts you.
To be doing right now is joining in a chorus of conviction to condemn it. And again, I'm a child of civil rights activists. You think Malcolm X and Martin Luther King agreed on everything? No. But when it came to the fight,
that's crazy to talk about Israel funding and being for a foreign nation. Now, obviously, when it comes to Cory Booker, Israel is one of the problems. The other problem also is his pharmaceutical donors as well. He is like Johnson & Johnson's most loyal soldier, obviously, from his state. J&J is from New Jersey. So like there's a lot of other issues as well. But like with Israel, because it's a foreign country, because it's a foreign country that has dominated American politics and American political discourse, especially in these past 2 years, where there is a negative association with Israel, any sort of like, oh, I'm trying to unify here, and you're like getting in the way of that by constantly bringing up Israel is silly, because it is a major point of contention. It is a major point of contention where you are at odds with the population. You are at odds with your voters. You're at odds with the broader population in general. This is a perfectly valid issue to bring up. It's not being a spoiler. It's not like finding minutia to disagree on and then engage in like purity spirals or purity politics. This is a major issue.
They joined together and created a movement that was successful. And that's really what my focus is. And as the only person in the caucus.
Your analysis on AIPAC funding seems a little premature, might be more apt in the coming years. No, I disagree. Especially among Democrats, no shot. Democrats do not look at not just AIPAC, any kind of like association, positive association with Israel as a positive. They do not. They see it as dishonesty, which is correct. They should see it as that. Okay? So you're absolutely wrong about this, because the inverse of this already took place for Democratic voters. Yes. When the Democratic voters see a politician dick ride Israel this hard at a time when there's unprecedented negativity associated with Israel for good reason, especially in the Democratic Party's base, where it's like 80% of Democrats don't with Israel. If you are a Democratic Party politician and you are still united in this like pro-Israel narrative without actually offering any significant concessions, without even trying to take the Benjamin Netanyahu is bad off-ramp, which I think still doesn't go far enough, you are telling all of the voters that listen in, that tune into this stuff, you're telling all those voters you don't give a fuck about them, you don't give a fuck about their opinions, you don't actually care about anything other than defending Israel. Being anti-Israel in this day and age is one of the most effective ways of communicating earnesty. Okay? Zohran Mamdani is proof of this concept. Okay? It already happened. We don't have to speculate any longer. We don't have to present approval ratings or polls any longer. We can just point to a person who boldly declared that as an American mayor, he cares about his constituents here and not about a foreign nation. Okay? And he was rewarded for it. That was a major turning point in American political discourse. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about what Zohran has done since then, okay? Because we're talking about his electoral victory in the primaries, the upset victory that he secured in the Democratic New York mayoral primaries, right? Voters overwhelmingly see something wrong. They see is doing a lot of harm. And then they look at the media and they see everybody dick riding Israel. They look at our politicians and they see everybody dick riding Israel. They go, what the fuck is going on here? So you can cut away at that. As a party, if the National Democratic Party took a partisan approach and became anti-Israel, they would win tremendous favors in the process. Okay? They would be able to communicate earnesty at a time when they are in dire need of goodwill from the broader population. This is precisely the reason why they lost the previous election. This is a major issue with the way that Democrats are perceived. Okay? Earnestness, not earnesty. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Earnestness. I'm not even doing the moral position anymore. Okay? I don't have to argue on the boundaries of morality. Although I have, and although I still do, because it is immoral to defend Israel. But a lot of people in the field of politics don't care about that. They're immoral vessels. They are empty suits, empty husks that are utterly soulless. Okay? Being anti-Israel recovers something that the Democratic Party has lost. The confidence of the voters that they actually do listen to their desires. This is the best opportunity to strike. Okay? This is the best opportunity to present. And the reason why I say that is because right now there is still a major fissure between the way that the public perceives Israel and the way that politicians communicate their undying loyalty to Israel. Okay? That's it. And there are people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, and numerous others who actually take advantage of that messaging vacuum and present themselves as honest communicators, saying things that others are too afraid to say. Meanwhile, you shouldn't even be afraid to say this because it's beneficial to say this.
That lives in a low-income black and brown neighborhood below the poverty line. I still remember when some progressives from the suburbs came down to protest me, and they were literally chased away by my neighbors because we are in an urgency. Every day I see it. We are in an urgency where real people are getting hurt. When I go up and down in New Jersey, they don't care about the fact that I took 1% of my money from some group. They care about what are you doing to restore my health care?
I think the Democratic base feels like there is a disconnect. We hear you, like when you did your 25-hour speech, I was like, go, Cory, I love this. That is amazing. And then there's a photo shoot with you with Benjamin Netanyahu. And I was just like, what in the actual, like, how can he do that? It was heartbreaking. I felt betrayed.
Yeah.
And hang on. And that doesn't just happen in an echo chamber. Democrats like you, where the base, we should make each other better. It's not a purity test. We want credible messengers. Because when we are down the middle, beholden to corporate interests, we leave this vacuum, and that's how fascism has flourished. For myself and a lot of our listeners, when I saw the picture with Benjamin Netanyahu, I felt like it diminished your 25 hours. That's how it felt to me.
That's a great cook. Wait, people said she was soft on him. This is not. Van recently spoke on why the Dems don't feel the need to fix this disconnect.
There's a large cohort of people that are getting to that. It's really going to be up to them about how they change and how they govern and who they take their money from. Because remember, the way I look at it is this. When you take some of this huge corporate moneyed interest out, you actually have to be a pure and better communicator of your values to your people because it's then them that is paying you. Yes. So really, you get a cheat code by having a big faceless, nameless corporation or the lobbying group.
I will be linking up with Van. Hold on. I want to see more of this interview, to be honest. Oh, there's also a Kamala genocide question. On MSNBC, Kamala is asked directly by Eugene Daniels. HasanAbi head Eugene Daniels asked if Israel's committing a genocide in Gaza, and here's how Kamala Harris replied.
A lot of folks in your party have called what's happening in Gaza a genocide. Do you agree with that?
I think that, listen, it is a term of law that a court will decide, but I will tell you that when you look at the number of children that have been killed, the number of innocent.
Oh, this is what I mean, bro. This is what I mean. Riff K, thank you for the 25 get the subs, by the way. It's just like, oh, the court of law will decide this. Like, let's leave it up to the courts. Only the court of law will be able to decide this. It's like, okay, well, the United Nations already conducted an investigation and found that Israel was committing a genocide. Okay? Like, at this point, even Bernie Sanders has recognized it. I mean, he still does the but Hamas shit, but like, he has recognized that Israel's doing a genocide. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Oh, just like, she's out of politics too, which is why it's so crazy. But I feel like you're cutting the vid short.
Civilians that have been killed, the refusal to give aid and support. We should all step back and ask this question and be honest about it. Yeah.
It's just, what a waste. With such insight, she could have been mayor of New York. When you look at the number of children that have been killed, We should all take a step back and ask this question and be honest about it. Yeah, at least, I mean, I guess at least she's like recognizing it. So that's not that bad. Oh. There's no reason to just still hit the shit, still neutered to shit because she sees the way the wind is blowing. Yeah. Kamala Harris says we should be honest about whether we call Israel's actions in Gaza a genocide while refusing to call it a genocide. Sounds like calculated boutique workshop response to placate her base. She is still absolutely and hopelessly out of touch. I agree. Like, just say yes. It's that's what the United Nations declared it as. Like, it's the highest standard beyond the ICC and the ICJ, which will take a long time to arrive at a reasonable conclusion, if they even arrive at a reasonable conclusion at all, especially considering the unimaginable pressure from the Trump administration that has been placed on this court.
I told you.
Yeah. A day after the ceasefire, Ehud Barak, then Israeli Prime Minister and former Israeli Defense Minister and former Prime Minister in 2012 said, a day after the ceasefire, no one will remember what is written in that draft. The only thing that will be tested is the blow Hamas suffered.
We're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting.
I will not vote for a candidate that takes $1 from AIPAC.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I haven't thought about AIPAC. And it's interesting. You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting. Why did I say that?
Benjamin Netanyahu.
Not relevant to my day-to-day life.
Why is that interesting? Of course it's relevant to your day-to-day life. If it was irrelevant, you wouldn't be taking money from them and you wouldn't actually like push for any kind of provision that silences like American voices at the behest of a foreign nation state, right? Wasn't there a recent bill that he actually signed into law that was like another one of these like crazy cynical bills that was just like combating any sort of anti-Israel speech? He told Brianna on her pod that he would keep pushing on this. AB 715. Yeah, Governor Newsom signs bill further cracking down on hate and anti-Semitism in California schools. Obviously, it's presented as like combating hate speech, but this is a terrible way to respond to this.
Okay.
Which is just interesting.
Listen.
It's interesting you say that. JPAC perhaps more, but AIPAC less and less.
Okay. Fair enough.
Which is just interesting.
What's interesting about it?
That it's just interesting as you bring up AIPAC that it hasn't been part of. I'm just reflecting quite openly and honestly. Hasn't been part of the day to day.
Yeah. The only reason why I ask is because
it's not even JPAC, it's J Street.
Because with that, what I'm talking about is lobbying in and of itself.
And I was just like, what in the actual fuck? Like, how can he do that? It was heartbreaking. I felt betrayed.
Yeah.
And that is, and that, hang on. And that doesn't just happen in an echo chamber. It's important when there are Democrats like you, where the base, we should make each other better. We need to evolve. And I love that you come on here. We need to have these conversations. It's not a purity test. We want credible messengers, because when we are down the middle and beholden to corporate interests, then we leave this vacuum, and that's how fascism has flourished. And so for myself and a lot of our listeners, when I saw the picture with Benjamin Netanyahu, I felt like it diminished your 25 hours. That's how it felt to me.
So a few things. One is, I work in the Beltway. I live in the Central Ward in Newark, New Jersey. Streets that a lot of folks tell folks, why would you demean and degrade my communities? I keep a little picture here of the first place I represented in 28 years old, which is a Black community that's struggling. And we've transformed our schools, our super.
Yeah, no, this is like the best possible thing to do for the Black community is by demonstrating unlimited fealty to a foreign state that is also notoriously anti-Black. But, that's not even neither here nor there. I think that's a crazy answer. And it is literally the exact same kind of like transparent identity politics weaponization that the Democrats claim that they want to move away from. Like, not even on this issue, on any issue really. When you are asked if this is like directly, if this is something that is pertinent, if the question revolves around like Black issues, of course it's perfectly valid to talk about your background as a Black person or the Black communities that you represent. But if it has nothing to do with black people whatsoever, and you so cynically deploy this identity shield, I think most people understand exactly what you're doing. People oftentimes have a negative association with this kind of identity mention anyway, even in instances where it's perfectly valid and perfectly appropriate to bring up your background, right? Most Americans immediately get fucking in their feelings when someone says, oh, I represent black and brown people, even if you're talking about black and brown issues, right? But when someone goes, hey, why are you demonstrating unlimited loyalty to a genocidal nation that is killing black and brown people, genociding black and brown people, as a matter of fact, and you go, well, I represent black and brown constituents, and I'm a black man. I come from a very poor working class background. I think everyone understands exactly what you're doing.
Supermarkets, new parks, urban farms, and the like. And the wonderful thing about those folks that I serve is that none of them question where I stand and how long, for more than a quarter of a century, have I stood with the people in their neighborhoods. Number two, so I may work in the Beltway, but I know where I came from and I know who got me here. And it's the struggling people that our party has done a pretty shitty job for, to be honest with you.
I agree.
Okay, number two, when you say things like Kushner this and whatever, I remember the people who actually, when the Democratic Party was doing things like passing crime bills that put black people like me, when I was in my 20s and stopped by the police all the time, behind bars, the Democratic Party failed and fueled mass incarceration. And so the people that were there for me 30 years ago, doing prisoner reentry programs, getting people jobs and housing, I'm sorry. People like Kushner, who was there 30 years ago fighting for those fights, I'm not going to forget that they fought for black people when other people seem to be gung-ho with, hold on, let me finish.
Wait, is this the first CARE Act? What was that act called that you passed?
Well, that was only 10 years ago, the First Step Act.
What was that? Okay, I've read about that. That's really good. Yes, it's excellent.
And I'm sorry, I have to work across the aisle, and Charlie Kushner was, but for him, it wouldn't have gotten done. So when I go home, people do know people that got out of prison because of the First Step Act, and they knew the bipartisan coalition. Third, I'm sorry. I have real problems with Benjamin Netanyahu. Outrageous things that he's doing. The way you fight for those things is you sit down face to face with somebody and you fight with them. I'm not going to be outside of the room screaming. I want to look him in the eye, like me, Amy Klobuchar, and a whole bunch of other people did, and talk to him about humanitarian aid. And if people want to criticize.
Oh, so when he was hiding his face in shame in that famous photograph, because it was obviously a photo op for the most pro-Israel congresspersons, he actually was there to argue with Benjamin Netanyahu. Totally makes sense. It's just crazy because for me, it felt like the reason why you were either silent on the issue of Israel's genocide of Palestinians or were always defensive of Israel was because you were a stooge for Israel. My mistake.
Me for it, then go ahead. But I'm leading in the Senate on West Bank crises right now, from their attempts to annex it or illegal settlements. I lead the legislation to sanction the people that are doing that. I can stand strong on my principles and still work to end these things. And I don't mind taking criticism, from folks that don't necessarily agree with my tactics. But we on this podcast right now, we share the same aim. Ceasefire now, humanitarian aid now, return the hostages now. And I'm going to work.
Do you think he's a war?
God damn, dude. I think it's like, maybe it's me, but it almost feels disrespectful that he's not even doing a good enough job here. Obviously, it's a fucking indefensible position, but I would have assumed that these guys would at least like try to craft an elaborate narrative. The question is, do you agree with the United Nations investigation that Israel is committing a genocide? Do you agree with the preliminary investigations that have come out of the ICC and ICJ that Israel is an apartheid state and must immediately stop its apartheid practices, both in the occupied West Bank that it illegally occupies and everywhere else as well? Like, that's the question. And he can't even, this is like The fact that he has a wishy-washy answer for, do you think Israel is committing war crimes, is ridiculous, because that's like the most pleasant question he could get on this issue. It is totally fucking horrifying the way he is like communicating. Charlie Kirk got the Medal of Freedom. We're cooked. I mean, come on, man. He deserves it. He's courageous. He's one of the biggest AIPAC shills. It's not just AIPAC. He is a massive Israel dick rider. He is close and personal best friends with Rabbi Shmuley. That's all you need to know. He literally went to college with Rabbi Shmuley. There's photos of him. There's photos of Rabbi Shmuley giving him a fucking piggyback ride. Like, yes. Rabbi Shmuley, the kosherized dildo guy, that Rabbi Shmuley. Cory Booker knows him personally from his youth. There's video footage of them dancing around too, I think, in like a Jewish holiday celebration. Do you think they explored each other's bodies? I don't know. I'm sure this doesn't have to do anything with kosher sex rabbi compromat compiler Shmuley Boteach leaking a video of himself wearing a clown costume and drunkenly piggyback riding Cory Booker on Purim at Oxford in 1993. Do you think they explored each other's bodies? Like, if you want people truly worried about exploding anti-Semitism, and you want people to not believe insane anti-Semitic conspiracies, don't fucking live them out. Okay? Because no one would have this opinion on Cory Booker and like look into his background and see like Rabbi Shmuley getting a fucking piggyback ride in 1993 in Oxford if Cory Booker had a reasonable approach to Israel. As a matter of fact, they would look at this video and go, wow, in spite of his relationship with Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, it's very obvious that he's still like firmly committed to the human rights approach when it comes to Israel. That's what people would say. But when you take the stances that you do and then this kind of video comes out, of course, people are going to be like, all right, well, what the fuck did you guys do that you're, you know, taking this unimaginably unpopular stance?
Criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu. Do you think he's a war criminal?
Cory Booker attending a Jewish holiday has nothing to do with Zionism by itself, to be clear. The undertones, yeah, he's not. He's not just attending a Jewish holiday. He's getting a fucking piggyback ride by Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, who he has been a close personal best friend to for numerous decades. And when you package that up with Rabbi Shmuley Boteach's prominent placement as a Hasbara advocate, as an Israel advocate, and you match that with like the inconsistencies in terms of like communicating a response against Israel, a foreign country, from a random Black American congressperson, of course people are going to lean into anti-Semitic conspiracies. That's why I said if they were besties and he was like, yeah, what Israel's doing is unconscionable and wrong, then no one would actually fucking lean into the anti-Semitic conspiracies.
Again, these are questions that a lot of people think are the important litmus tests that are loaded and hot. My urgency is to be an effective leader in bringing an end to this crisis. And I get these questions all the time that to me undermine my urgency. And
I think the thing that Democrats get so frustrated with, where we are right now, where you see like the Zoran Mamdanis and the Graham Plattners rise up, because they can go on podcasts and you can say, do you think Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal? And they just say, yes. And that's the end of it. It's not all of the rhetoric answering. It's like what happens to Democratic politicians, they go through this like prism, and then we can't ever get like the answer to yes or no conversations like you do with Bernie and others. And that's the frustration for the Democratic
base. Do I think Netanyahu is worse than Trump? Yes. Do I think that we right now, in America, should be doing everything possible to bring peace, not just to that crisis, but to the ones that shock me that no one talks about? And I hope, and I don't know if you guys have or not, but crises like Sudan, where there are American weapons literally causing horrific, in fact, by double, triple, quadruple, it's the biggest humanitarian crisis that we're not talking about as a country. When I was coming up, everybody was talking about Darfur. Now the moral silence is outrageous when American weapons are being used in that conflict.
And the same with Israel. I mean,
I think it's insane to straight up use the genocide deflection to be like, well, what about this other genocide? Okay, you are calling me out for my loyalty to a state that is committing genocide, but what about this other state that's also committing genocide, which ironically enough is also aligned with the state that is committing genocide, UAE, aligned with Israel, like attached to the fucking hip to American foreign policy goals in the region. Sudan is a civil war, Gaza is not. It doesn't matter. Sudan is also a genocide, and the civil war component is being actively accelerated by the United Arab Emirates. And it's also, the human toll is unimaginably costly. And a part of that support is the indirect support by the United States of America to the RSF on the side of the UAE. Having said that, our support for Israel is completely direct. Okay? There is no like weapons transfers being made to UAE that make it to that make their ways to the rapid support forces who are now using it to blockade the capital and commit atrocities. Okay? We have a direct hand in Israel's genocide. And not only that, we directly offer political cover for Israel. That's what Cory Booker is doing in this situation. Very good job at it. We bailed him out politically. We bailed him out with financial support. We use our own American soldiers, the American Navy in the region to defend Israel. We fund the genocide. We bomb Israel's enemies for Israel. We allow Israel to bomb our allies in the region. And on top of that, we allow Israel to play a formative role in domestic affairs. So yes, the entanglements that we have with Israel is magnitudes worse than the indirect flow of weapons that make their ways into the hands of the RSF, which also is an issue and should be stopped. But a big part of that problem is that the UAE support for the RSF is never called into question because the UAE support for Israel.
Our weapons and even Democratic politicians signed them before they were sent over to kill kids. This is, I really feel like if we get through this fascism, we have to have conversations like this, Senator. I think it's
but you're right.
important.
Where you're right is the Democratic Party. Again, as a black guy in America, there are so many things we don't talk about that we need to have an honest conversation about. You're right. I work in a place that corruption has been accepted. Why are people taking corporate PAC money? Why are people trading stocks? I hold myself to the standard of what I want to see other elected officials. If I was a guy in Newark that I talked to about.
He's like, I want everyone to be as big of a dick rider of a foreign nation state doing a genocide as myself. Not a good standard.
That don't believe their politicians stand and fight for them. And so I agree with you that there are real corruptions that we tolerate that we need to do something about. Campaign finance is one of the things. This is why I do not take certain money from everything from oil company C-suite folks to pharma company C-suite folks. These are all things that I believe. But every day that I get up here, I know the people of New Jersey want me to fight for them and their interests. And so when it comes to the fights we're in right now, I'm happy to be in a trench with everybody in my caucus, from Mark Warner all the way to Bernie Sanders. The whole caucus, we are united in a fight right now that I'm hoping, despite the...
I wonder if the cynical deployment of I'm black works at all in this situation. Because like on issues that pertain to white supremacy, on issues that are actually against white supremacy, because I would go so far as say Israel's actions in Gaza, Israel's actions in general, Israel's entire settler colonial enterprise is damn near identical to previous white supremacist colonial formations. But like this is one of the most transparent attempts of deploying your personal background and your personal identity as a shield. And this is exactly the edge case of what people universally despise. Progressives and obviously everybody else as well, but you know, Republicans obviously despise any sort of mention of identity coming from a non-white person, non-white, non-male person. They love it when you do identity politics for white men. And that's oftentimes not for good reason. They despise it because they don't want to hear about the realities of white supremacy. But in this circumstance, it seems like such a transparent attempt to say, like, look, I'm black. I get it. That's why I have to defend a white supremacist enterprise, you know? Wholesale slaughter of black and brown bodies by a nuclear superpower to the United States of America.
Disagreements within the Democratic tent that we all can unify and say it's outrageous for people's healthcare costs to double their premiums. It's outrageous for 22 million Americans to lose their healthcare. It's outrageous for hospitals to have longer waits at the emergency room because people are going there to get their primary care. I go home every day, as I told you, or at least every week, to my community. And a lot of the things that I often talk about on podcasts like this, they don't give a damn about. They want to know what's going on with my rising costs.
Yeah, this Israel stuff is irrelevant to my black and brown constituents, I think is silly. Like, nobody is saying that you shouldn't pay great amounts of attention to these other problems, right? They're very important. And especially progressives care about this stuff, especially when it comes to domestic politics, domestic affairs. But the question here is, why do you have such undivided, irreplaceable loyalty to a foreign state that is conducting heinous crimes against humanity?
What's going on with my loss of health care? What's going on with the poisoning of my communities? Because everybody wants to talk about them being an environmentalist, but nobody's talking about the toxic sites that are in communities like mine and community. What's going on with the fact that giving birth in this country is one of the most dangerous jobs you can have, especially for Black women? And so I hear you when I'm down here in the Beltway or get on podcasts, everybody wants to talk, well, you didn't vote 100% this way. Nobody asks me about that in communities that I'm fighting for in New Jersey. What they want to know is, what are we doing to make the American dream that I can buy a home, that I can afford health care, that I can afford to pay the groceries or pay for childcare? What are you doing? I spoke to the Teamsters last week, packed room, pissed at the Democrats, pissed at the Republicans. By the end of the
Dude, this is pure whataboutism, pure deflection. It's the same as when Republicans say, oh, now is not the time to talk about gun control because we have to focus on mental health. Or when Republicans say, wait a minute, now is not the time to talk about immigration. Immigrants are coming into this country, but what about our veterans who need mental health and who need housing? It's just a cynical way to shift the conversation and the attention away by claiming that, like, this Israel stuff is insignificant to the average American when it clearly is not insignificant, especially because Israel has, whether people recognize it or not, and I think more and more people are recognizing it now, has had a stranglehold on even domestic affairs for a very long time. It's ridiculous. He is trying to say, like, oh, I want healthcare for everybody, actually, even though he's not a pro-Medicare for all politician as far as I remember. But in an effort to move the attention away from the Israel stuff, he's like, well, what about healthcare? People want to be able to pay for healthcare. It's like, okay, what are you doing about that? But the moment that you ask that question, he's already won because he doesn't want you pressing him on Israel. Israel would be an irrelevant talking point if it was not attached to the fucking hip, suckling on the American teat on a daily basis, ingeniously interfering in the domestic affairs of everyday Americans. Americans love to talk about how much they believe in the First Amendment and the Constitution, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, free press. There's only one country that has been able to successfully, in the most transparently unconstitutional way possible, undermine the First Amendment. And it has gone on for decades. That country is Israel. The lobby that wrote those bills is AIPAC. There is a reason why nobody asks people that are running for local office if they would go to, I don't know, Lima, if they would go to Estonia. Okay? They ask, would you go to Israel? And when you say no, they say, why are you anti-Semitic? There is no equivalence to this. Okay, that's it. There's no lobbying arm. There is no massive influence peddling operation for any other fucking country like this. This is domestic politics. So people that say, oh man, I just don't care about this at all. Like, why do you care about this? My constituents don't care about Israel. It's like, first of all, you're lying, okay? Because they absolutely do. They 100% do. Are you a Democratic politician? Then yes, your constituents do care about this. Even if it's not the highest priority, you are directly at odds with your constituents on this issue. And it's not even like a 50-50, 60-40 split. It's a 80-20 split. It's worse than an 80-20 split, depending on what specific aspect of this Israel stuff that we're talking about. So it's not even a question. You could be finding yourself in the pocket of, I don't know, the great forestry lobby, and maybe the New Jersey constituents don't actually give a fuck about it all that much. But if asked, New Jerseyans said 98% that they don't think that they should be destroying the forests, and you were getting unlimited funding from lumber companies and were constantly advancing bills that destroyed the national forest, then it would be a perfectly appropriate question to ask. Like, well, here's 98% of your constituents that say not a single dime to subsidize the forestry industry. Okay, like they're destroying our national forest. Seemingly, your constituents care about this. If you turned around and you were like, well, my constituents care about like their day-to-day needs, it's like, okay, but this is an issue where you are directly at odds with your constituents. Why is that the case? Because it seems like you get a lot of money from this specific industry. Perhaps that is the reason.
Speech, I had them on their feet applauding because I was saying things that they're not used to Democrats talking about, which is screw all this stuff that talked about up here. What are you doing for me and my family to represent us? I want to get the Democratic Party back to the basics that makes people believe in us again. And first, it is getting rid of corruption. And corruption means that I know my politician isn't bought and paid for, that I know my politician isn't.
Yeah. The way to fast track this is because he's not wrong. Democrats have a messaging problem. He's not wrong. Democrats have an earnesty problem, an earnestness or earnesty, whatever you want to call it. Okay. They are not seen as credible actors. They are seen as smug, entitled, out of touch elitists. If only there was a overwhelming majority support issue that Congress seemingly constantly refused to address and defense of a foreign country that seemingly gets to dominate American politics. If only there was a party that looked at that situation and said, no more, we're not doing that. Perhaps that would be a wonderful opportunity for the Democrats to actually win back some of that confidence, especially considering that there are plenty of Americans or plenty of politicians who are doing that right now.
Trading stocks on information that I don't have, that I know my politicians aren't playing to somebody else's tune. Second is, what are you doing to make my life economically easier? Because 60% of this country can't afford America anymore, can't afford the American dream. Third, what are we doing for families? Because raising a kid in this country increases your chance of going below the poverty line by over 100% just by having a child, because that's how expensive it is. And again, healthcare, being able to have a child without dying. These are the basics our party wants. People don't want all the bells and whistles. They don't want all the bullshit political talks that we all always get tripped up on. What are you doing for us? And the fight that we're in right now in Washington against Donald Trump, and you and I might agree on a lot of the things, threats to democracy, a lot of these things that we talk about. But when I go home, people are just so pissed off that they can't afford America anymore. And that's what we need to be talking about.
Listeners, sometimes it's so difficult to get ahead through. And I mean this, I have had it for problems. Just take him because you're in the Senate. I feel like every single day, Democratic leadership in the federal government should be out saying Donald Trump has dementia. He's running around calling it the Department of War,
when it is the Department of Defense. He is lying about inflation. I mean, just every day he's demented. He should be impeached. He's lying. And I am not seeing that. I see sound bites a little bit here and there.
It's like he basically got them to stop pressing by unironically going on a filibuster. Like he just filibustered this conversation. Mr. Filibuster. Mr. Filibuster himself, he did it. Oh, nobody cares about this. What do you mean nobody cares about this? You're talking about the unprecedented cost of, you're talking about the problem with, you're talking about the problems with the Democrats not being able to look honest, win back confidence from the regular voters. One quick way is Israel. Okay, taking a bold anti-Israel stance. Then you talk about all of the financial predicaments that your constituents are experiencing and how you want politicians to address that. Meanwhile, a big part of the reason why people are anti-Israel is because they keep looking at the unlimited billions of dollars going to Israel, where they do have all of these fucking benefits, where they do have better social safety nets, they do have healthcare. Even if people don't know that Israel has that, by the way, which when they find out that Israel does have that, they get even more mad. But even if they don't know that, they're like, okay, why aren't we spending this on me? Why aren't they spending this money on my neighborhood? Why is this money going to Israel so they can go kill fucking black and brown children? I don't understand that. They said something that is very close to this when it came down to Ukraine. And Ukraine is a at least morally defensible posture in the eyes of the broader American collective consciousness, a defensive position against the Russian incursion that is unjustifiable. And even then, Americans were like, why the fuck are we giving so much money to Ukraine, bro? Americans are fed up with foreign entanglements and foreign intervention and demand that this money is spent on them, that their taxpayer dollars go back to funding their neighborhoods. At its base, this is the argument. Okay? At the end, they talk more about Israel again.
But I will say, now that we've been doing this for 3 years, I do think that the United States, and particularly the Democratic Party, we have to be leaders on this issue with Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu. It's something that there is a big, loud beat in the base that's permeating all across the country. When you have people in Oklahoma that have never been political before start to talk about it. And here's what I'm scared about. And I've been talking to other politicians that have come on the pod about this. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is an anti-Semite. She is a real Jew hater to the core. And she is starting to message now. MAGA is not America first, where they've been Israel first. And for rural people and suburban people, when they hear that messaging, it allows a grifter and an opportunist like Marjorie Taylor Greene, for people that don't follow the 24-hour news cycle, to say, yeah, why do they have free healthcare and we don't? Why are we sending them all of these bombs and they're killing kids and we don't? I think in order for us to come together as a party in 2026, it's going to take leadership saying things like Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. We have to stop funding the war. And we've evolved on the issue. And I think it's okay. I think we're all at a place right now where we can accept that we have the leaders that we have. And I agree with you that we agree on 98 out of 100 things. And if we agreed 100 out of 100, we'd be in a cult, would be MAGA. And we're not that. We're always going to disagree on things. And I genuinely hear you when you say,
yeah, obviously she's not saying we need to fund the bombs for our children, chatters. Come on. Like, she means all the funds going to bombs to kill children overseas. Why don't those funds go back to our children?
People don't know who Chuck Schumer is. You're exactly right. So many Americans do not know who that is at all. We all do, obviously. And I think the economic messaging, but I do think that if the Democrats leave this vacuum there, it's going to get filled by the people in MAGA that are seeing a post-Trump America. And it's super easy messaging with the America First thing. It's just something I want you to think about, because I think it's a political liability for our party right now.
They're calling me for a vote. Let me just say this. So first of all, why aren't people talking about when Obama was using American jets to bomb, to refuel Saudi planes that were.
What the fuck? Brother. First of all, I mean, we here in this community have talked about that consistently, but that is a crazy. Bro, this man is more loyal to Israel than he is to the God King of the modern Democrat Party, Barack Hussein Obama. That is, I don't even know what's going on there. I've never even, what?
Dropping bombs on Yemenis children. Why weren't we yelling and screaming about it? I spoke out against it. But
no, it was bad, but we have to talk about current.
Please let me finish because they're going to pull me away.
Okay.
Why? And again, I've been fighting for more funding from the Horn of Africa to the Congo to Sudan. Why can't we get people to care?
I mean, did Obama give him $800K? True. You like that. When you fucking put it like that, it makes a lot more sense. I cannot believe that when called in the question about loyalty to the state of Israel as it's conducting a genocide, Cory Booker said, what about Obama giving money? What about Obama giving money to fucking Saudi Arabia to bomb children in Yemen? Hasan just stops the video when someone says something he thinks is controversial to go, what, why, what, who, what are you talking about, bro? Meanwhile, I mean, that's just, it's like seriously. This is true. That's all I do. You called it. You smacked my ass, chatter. You are a brilliant intellect. I will be DMing you my stream key. Anyway, going back to the point. I cannot explain how fucking insane it is to deflect away to Barack Obama of all people.
In this country, enough where our top podcasts are saying it's wrong that we are implicated in so many things, people dying on the continent of Africa. Why Haiti? Why can't I get top mainstream media people?
Dog, the question is, why do you have so much loyalty to Israel and why won't you cut ties with Israel as it's conducting a genocide? And you're like, well, why can't anybody talk about Haiti? That's crazy, man. That's a crazy fucking deflection. I don't know how does this actually read to people as like a decent approach to this conversation, especially considering that like for a lot of people, I think they also view what Israel's doing as like a white supremacist act of violence anyway. Especially because despite the fact that Israel is very Arab, right? Lots of Arab Jews in Israel. Most Western world Jews are Ashkenazi and therefore white. So for a lot of people in the Western world, they don't even realize that like Israel is also a brown on brown violence technically. And also a big part of the Israeli violence is the same exact pattern that he's talking about in Haiti or Congo or Sudan. Foreign intervention at the behest of Western in many circumstances where you keep the native population of black and brown people down and servile and destroy them. So Israel is identical in that regard. What is this? Bro is doing whataboutism for every conflict we do. He's just trying to deflect. What is this? He didn't? What was the question? I can't find him introducing or voting for a bill to block arms sales against Saudi Arabia during Obama's term. Maybe he just kept it to himself. Maybe he was like, yeah, I really hated it, but I didn't tell anybody. I just like kind of kept it to my own damn self.
To give a damn about the atrocities there. The International Criminal Court singles out Israel, but not Iran, not Syria, not other.
Yeah, he became a Pan-Africanist Maoist at the first mention of Israel, except like I've never met a Pan-Africanist Maoist who wasn't the most anti-Israel person you've ever met. You know, that's a new guy. The new guy. Van Jones? Yeah, Van Jones. Van Jones is like Thomas Sankara, but also pro-Israel.
Folks, I don't understand. I'm with you on the ending of the nightmare and the ceasefire. I'm with you on criticizing the Netanyahu administration, which I think is worse than the Trump administration.
Oh,
but
wow.
As a guy who is focusing so much of my effort.
Wow, I can't believe it. Wow, you hate Trump and you really hate Netanyahu. except you don't hate him enough to like refuse to fucking visit him. And also on top of that, oh, sorry. A little burpy burp came out of my mouth while I was trying to fucking talk here. But you just have consistently defended his genocide, Israel's genocide. And you're doing that right now by deflecting to other instances of American death and destruction around the globe. I can't believe it, dude. I cannot believe it. I can't believe the Obama mention is so wild to me. I've had a podcast Jennifer Welsh implores Cory Booker after he refused to call Netanyahu a war criminal to take the outrage over Gaza seriously. Booker claims he has to go, says the ICC singles out Israel and criticizes podcasters for not focusing more on Africa instead. He's not exactly wrong to note Obama's crimes in Yemen, but it's interesting that this where Booker has reached in his defense of Israel's conduct. Yeah, push him a little bit further. Push him a little bit further, and he's going to start talking about like the USSR or some shit. Like he's going to start talking about how the USSR absolutely did the right thing to quash the counter-revolutionary Hungarian revolution by force. He's just going to start taking more radical positions increasingly. He's just going to keep leveling up. He's like, honestly, a lot of people in China have betrayed Mao by even criticizing the Cultural Revolution. It was actually objectively good, and you should be able to kill as many sparrows as you want to, and that famine isn't that bad. It actually makes people a lot stronger in the aftermath of that famine. Like, just keep building on it all the way until you defend Pol Pot in an effort not to criticize Israel, okay? Yeah. Fucking awesome. The Khmer Rouge were demonstrating real revolutionary potential by assassinating people en masse for the crime of wearing glasses because we hate fucking nerds. Okay? You don't understand. This is a valid approach to revolutionary violence, and you simply don't understand it with your mind. Okay? You just don't get it. He's a communist. Please stop me. Please stop demanding that I talk about Israel. Every time you push me on this, I'm going to get more and more ultra. I'm going to turn into an ultra here, okay? I'm going to make fucking Jason Unruhe blush. He is not an ultra anyway. What the hell are you talking about? I'm just making a joke because he literally fucking talked about Obama's foreign policy against Yemen in a negative tone in an effort not to talk about Israel.
Human suffering on the planet Earth, on the biggest humanitarian nightmares. I can't get people with powerful platforms to speak even.
Yeah, in this clip, Booker says his efforts are focused on ending all human suffering on planet Earth. Except for Israel, by the way. Except for Israel. Just everyone. Honestly, that is the true pro-Israel position. Only Israel gets to do a genocide. Only Israel gets to do war crimes. Only Israel gets to do an apartheid. Any other war around the world is unjust and must be stopped, so that it is only the most moral nation on the planet that gets to do its most moral genocide. What is this? Remember what he said about AIPAC 6 years ago? In leaked recordings, Cory Booker says he and AIPAC president text message back and forth like teenagers. I mean, that's not shocking, surprising. That's why I think, though, he's hitting this from the maximalist, like the most pro-Israel position you can actually arrive at, which is only Israel gets to do war crimes, genocide, apartheid. Nobody else.
Once about the nightmares that are going on. It drives me nuts. And it makes me feel like I have felt when I was representing.
As one of the few Sudanese chatters in here, the weaponization of the genocide, famine, and struggles of my people to justify and deflect from the Israeli genocide is so fucking infuriating. It probably stings even more when you realize that the perpetrator of this inhumanity, this genocide in Sudan, is also allowed to do so because of their unconditional, uncompromising loyalty to the state of Israel and the United States of America. That's what makes us, like, that is insult to injury right there. Because these guys who are fucking pro-Israel also never really talk about Sudan at all, because the main perpetrators there are also pro-Israel. Yeah, 12 million people displaced and horrific famines funded by the UAE, and in common political discourse, we get reduced to an Israeli deflection. It is so infuriating. Boggling, dude. When you ask them if they think the support for Israel is already costing Democrats elections, what would be the correct response in your view? What, like an honest politician should say? Yes, It is costly for the Democrats, and that's precisely why we must decouple from Israel in our foreign policy. Israel has long been a burden, not just on U.S. foreign policy, but also been a major burden on domestic affairs as well. It is utterly ridiculous to be this married to a apartheid ethno-state that has genocidal ambitions, which it's actually seeing out.
Newark, New Jersey, to get people in our country to care enough. Why do I stand out and support people that you and others criticize me for voting for? Because I will never forget when nobody cared about mass incarceration of Black and brown people who stood up for them. Why am I get so angry sometimes about my own party, who seems to be distracted by issues that don't matter and not to the core of people who cannot afford to pay rent and buy groceries? That's why I've chosen to live where I live, because every day when I come home, I get snapped back to reality, to people who want me to focus on what matters to them. And so I hear you about what the causes are that are most making headlines. But my entire career, I've cared about the issues that aren't the popular issues, but are the ones that are affecting the most people that are often forgot about or marginalized. And that's what I want to say with urgency. So you and I are going to agree on the big ticket items, but I want to come back on this show. I beg of you and I'll send them to you beforehand. 3 things that we should be talking about that we're not talking about that are affecting millions of either Americans or hundreds of millions of people or tens of millions of people on the planet Earth.
Senator, I want to thank you so much for coming on this podcast, because this is the difference between the left and the right. You come on here, we have conversations, we grow, we learn from each other, and it's not like Fox News or the right wings. We disagree and we embrace the disagreement to make a better country. And thank you so much for coming on. We respect all of the work you do, and we're here to fight this fight with you and find compromise and unity where we can.
We are unified, the 3 of us, and you all are voices that, again, the tradition of Black radio in America, you all know this. It was people like you all that have platforms that would entertain people, that would inform people, that would engage people, but most of all, would help to heal the hurt, to inspire people to act even when they were starting to feel despair. I believe that hope is the active conviction that despair will never have the last word. And you all are speaking up again and again and again, trying to make sure people know that as dark as things are, as challenging as things are, we still have fight, we still have strength, and we still, like my parents said when they marched, we still believe that we shall overcome.
Senator, good luck. Thank you. And please come back on.
I've had it, ladies. Need a leftist Black woman correspondent? Sure. Good luck compromising with a brick wall. I mean, look,